The sound of flesh hitting concrete echoed through the empty hallway. Isabella Harper lay face down on the cold floor, blood trickling from her split lip as 5 dark figures circled her like predators. Damien Rothschild pressed his expensive Italian shoe against her back, yanking the leather bag from her trembling hands with savage satisfaction. "You thought you were somebody? A pathetic scholarship teacher daring to challenge us?" His voice dripped with venom as he lifted the bag triumphantly. The other 4 laughed, a sound devoid of humanity. Isabella struggled to lift her head, her lips moving in barely audible whispers. 10, 9, 8. Damien's smile froze as he unzipped the bag. Inside, where textbooks and makeup should have been, lay an FBI badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. A Glock 19 rested beside it. But what made his blood turn to ice were the photographs scattered beneath. Images that would destroy everything. 3, 2, 1. Isabella's whisper grew stronger. The distant thunder of helicopter rotors suddenly filled the air. If stories like this make your blood boil, if you believe bullies deserve what's coming to them, hit that subscribe button right now. Your support helps us share these incredible true stories of justice served. Drop a comment below telling us about a time you witnessed karma in action, because every voice matters in the fight against bullying. 3 months earlier, Isabella Harper had walked through the gates of Blackstone Preparatory Academy, looking every inch the nervous new teacher. At 24, with her slight frame, thick glasses, and soft voice, she embodied everything the elite students would consider easy prey. Her modest clothes and worn leather bag marked her as an outsider in this world of $100,000 cars and trust fund futures. No one suspected that beneath her cardigan beat the heart of a former Navy SEAL. No one knew the FBI had placed her here to investigate a human trafficking ring worth billions. Blackstone Prep stood like a fortress of privilege in the New Hampshire hills. For over a century, it had molded the children of ambassadors, CEOs, and shadowy figures who moved billions through offshore accounts. The 150-acre campus boasted facilities that rivaled Ivy League universities, funded by parents whose wealth came from sources better left unexamined. But Isabella had discovered something that made her blood run cold during her preliminary investigation. Over the past decade, 30% of scholarship students had mysteriously transferred or dropped out. Their families received generous settlements to stay quiet. The truth was far darker. These children had vanished into an international trafficking network that used the school as a hunting ground. The mastermind behind Blackstone's reign of terror was 18-year-old Damien Rothschild. With an IQ of 150 and a psychiatric diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder from age 12, he was brilliant, charismatic, and utterly without conscience. His father, Victor Rothschild, presented himself as a philanthropist who donated millions to children's charities across Eastern Europe. In reality, those charities were fronts for one of the largest human trafficking operations in history. Damien had inherited his father's empire and his cruelty, ruling Blackstone through fear and violence. Isabella's first encounter with Damien came during her second week. He had sauntered into her American literature class 15 minutes late, his gang of 4 trailing behind him like attack dogs. Without acknowledging her presence, he took his seat in the back row and propped his feet on the desk. "Mr. Rothschild," Isabella had said mildly, "please see me after class about your tardiness." The room fell silent. Other students exchanged nervous glances, waiting for the explosion. Damien's ice-blue eyes fixed on her with reptilian coldness. "I don't think you understand how things work here, Miss Harper. After class, When the room emptied, Damien approached her desk with the casual confidence of someone who had never faced consequences. "Let me educate you about reality," he said, leaning over her desk. "My family owns half the board members. The other half owe my father favors that would make your little teacher's mind implode. You're here on our sufferance. One word from me, and you'll vanish like your predecessor." Isabella had maintained eye contact, cataloging every word for her reports. "Is that a threat, Damien?" she asked calmly. He smiled, revealing perfect teeth that somehow made him look more predatory. "It's a promise." From that moment, war had been declared. Isabella began documenting everything, using her specialized phone to record conversations and photograph evidence. The device, military-grade equipment that looked like a standard iPhone, captured video in 360 degrees, while encrypting everything with government-level security. Every interaction in the school was being recorded in a format admissible in federal court, building an airtight case against the network. Damien's campaign against her started subtly. Her car tires were slashed in the faculty parking lot. Her apartment was broken into, though nothing was stolen. A message that they could reach her anywhere. Dead roses appeared on her desk each morning. Anonymous emails flooded her inbox with graphic threats, but Isabella had endured SEAL training, had been waterboarded and sleep-deprived and pushed beyond human limits. These children playing at being monsters had no idea who they were threatening. The escalation came in week 5. Isabella received a photograph on her personal phone, one that shouldn't have been accessible to anyone. It showed a young woman in Boston labeled "Your Sister Emily." The message was clear. "We can reach your family." Of course, Emily didn't exist. The FBI had created an entire fictional family for Isabella's cover, complete with social media profiles and documented histories. But she played her part perfectly, showing just enough fear to make Damien overconfident while secretly celebrating that he'd taken the bait. Week 8 brought a more serious attempt. Isabella had just poured her morning coffee in the teacher's lounge when her instincts, honed by years of combat, screamed danger. She pretended to receive a phone call, turning away from the cup. When she returned to it moments later, a subtle discoloration on the surface caught her trained eye. A field test later confirmed her suspicions: concentrated hydrochloric acid, enough to destroy her throat and internal organs. She disposed of the evidence after thoroughly documenting it, adding attempted murder to Damien's growing list of charges. By week 11, Damien had grown frustrated with her resilience. During a school assembly, he stood up in front of 800 students and made his declaration: "Miss Harper will disappear soon, just like Mr. Chen, just like Miss Rodriguez, just like all the others who forgot their place." The auditorium fell silent. Principal Morrison, a weak man who'd sold his soul for a beach house in Martha's Vineyard, pretended not to hear. Other teachers looked away, but Isabella memorized every face, noted every reaction. The FBI would want to know who was complicit and who was simply terrified. What Damien didn't know was that Isabella spent her mornings in ways that would have shattered his arrogance. Every day at 5 a.m., she ran 10 miles through the woods surrounding her apartment, maintaining the conditioning that had carried her through Hell Week. She practiced Krav Maga in her living room, keeping her combat skills sharp. Each evening, she called her handler at the FBI, transmitting the day's intelligence through encrypted channels. Her leather bag, which looked worn and unremarkable, contained compartments that would have impressed Q from the James Bond films. Friday morning arrived with an ominous stillness. Isabella dressed carefully, choosing a blazer slightly too large, perfect for concealing tactical gear. She swapped her usual heels for running shoes, a choice that would prove prophetic. As she checked her phone, a message appeared. "Package in position. Await signal." Operation Dark Academy was about to enter its final phase. 3 years of investigation, hundreds of agents across 12 countries, all culminating in this moment. Isabella arrived at school at 7:45, noting the unusual absence of security at the main gate. In the faculty parking lot, she recognized unmarked vans that definitely didn't belong to teachers. Her trained eye caught the subtle signs: antenna arrays for communication equipment, reinforced panels, government plates despite the civilian appearance. The cavalry was in position, but they needed one final piece of evidence to ensure convictions that would stick. Her first stop was Principal Morrison's office. The man looked haggard, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning. "I need to report ongoing harassment by Damien Rothschild," Isabella said, placing her bag carefully on his desk. The principal's laugh was bitter and frightened. "Miss Harper, you should be very careful. Many teachers before you have found themselves reassigned. Sometimes people who challenge the wrong families simply vanish. It would be tragic if something happened to you." Isabella leaned forward, activating the recording device in her bag. "Is that a threat, Principal Morrison? Are you saying the school administration is aware of criminal activities and chooses to enable them?" His face went pale as he realized the trap. "I'm simply suggesting that discretion is often the better part of valor. The Rothschild family has been very generous to this institution." Every word was being captured, another nail in his coffin. She left his office with everything she needed from him, an admission of complicity that would destroy any attempt to claim ignorance. Her morning class was at 11, leaving time to plant the final pieces of bait. She made her way through hallways lined with portraits of distinguished alumni, many of whom were likely being arrested at this very moment across the globe. The American literature class that morning carried an electric tension. Isabella had chosen The Scarlet Letter as their text, a story about hidden sins and public revelation. Damien sat in the back row with his 4 lieutenants: Marcus Chen, whose father ran drugs through diplomatic pouches; James Morrison, the principal's son who'd inherited his father's weakness and cruelty; Alex Volkov, connected to the Russian Bratva; and Tyler Brennan, whose family specialized in money laundering through art galleries. "Today we discuss how secrets destroy communities," Isabella began, writing on the whiteboard. "How those in power use shame and fear to control others." Damien's laugh cut through the room like a blade. "Sometimes people disappear before their secrets can hurt anyone. Isn't that right, Miss Harper?" The other students shrank in their seats, recognizing the naked threat. Isabella turned to face him, allowing a small smile to play at her lips. "Or sometimes, Mr. Rothschild, the people who think they're predators discover they've been prey all along. The Scarlet Letter brands the guilty, and justice, though delayed, is inevitable." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Damien's eyes narrowed to slits. "Are you threatening me, teacher?" "I'm teaching literature," Isabella replied calmly. "If you see yourself in the villains of these stories, perhaps that's something worth examining." Marcus Chen half rose from his seat before Damien gestured him down. The moment stretched taut as a wire before Isabella turned back to the board, knowing she'd pushed exactly the right button. Lunchtime arrived at 12:30. Isabella made her way toward the faculty room, taking a deliberately circuitous route through the older wing of the building. This section, built in the 1920s, had limited camera coverage, a fact she'd noted and exploited weeks ago by installing her own surveillance devices. Every step was calculated to lead Damien exactly where she wanted him. She heard them before she saw them. 5 sets of footsteps following at a distance that would seem casual to anyone not trained in surveillance detection. Isabella slowed her pace, allowing them to close the gap. Her heartbeat remained steady at 60 beats per minute, the same rate she'd maintained during firefights in Afghanistan. The second hand on her watch swept past 12:35. In 25 minutes, 300 federal agents would move simultaneously across the globe. But first, she needed Damien to incriminate himself beyond any shadow of doubt. The hallway stretched before her, afternoon sunlight streaming through tall windows to create pools of golden light and deep shadows. She could hear Damien murmuring to his followers, their excitement building as they sensed their prey was finally cornered. Isabella touched her bag, feeling the weight of the equipment inside. 3 months of preparation, years of investigation, hundreds of young lives destroyed. It all came down to the next few moments. "Going somewhere, Miss Harper?" Damien's voice echoed off the marble floors as he stepped out of an alcove ahead of her. The others emerged from doorways and side passages, forming a semicircle that blocked any escape route. Isabella let her shoulders slump, injecting a quaver into her voice. "I need to get to the faculty room. Please, let me pass." "I don't think so," Damien said, savoring each word. "You see, we've been patient. We've given you chances to learn your place, but you're either too stupid or too stubborn to take the hint." He moved closer, his cologne failing to mask the excited sweat of a predator closing in for the kill. "Do you know what happened to the last teacher who defied me?" Isabella backed against the wall, letting her breathing quicken, not from fear, but to hyperventilate her system for what was coming. "Please, I'll do whatever you want. I'll change your grades. I'll look the other way. Just please don't." "Too late for begging," Damien snarled. He nodded to Marcus and James, who grabbed her arms. She didn't resist, not yet. Every second of this was being recorded by her hidden cameras, building an assault case that would add decades to their sentences. Tyler and Alex moved to block both ends of the hallway, ensuring no interruptions. Damien's face twisted into something inhuman as he grabbed her hair, yanking her head back. "You know what your problem is? You actually thought your pathetic principles mattered here. You thought being right would protect you." His breath was hot against her face. "My father owns judges, police commissioners, even FBI agents. Yeah, we know you've been talking to them. Did you really think we didn't have sources everywhere?" Isabella's eyes widened in genuine surprise. They had a mole. This information would be crucial for the investigation. "How did you—" "Shut up!" Damien backhanded her, splitting her lip. Blood spattered the white wall. "After today, you won't be talking to anyone. You're going to disappear just like the others. Maybe they'll find pieces of you in a few years, maybe not. Depends on how hungry the pigs are at the farm." He grabbed for her bag, and this time Isabella held on, creating the struggle that would justify everything that came next. "No! Please! You don't understand what's in there." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Damien hissed, yanking harder. "Evidence, recordings, maybe even a weapon. Did you really think we'd let you walk around building a case against us?" With a final vicious pull, he tore the bag from her hands, sending her sprawling to the floor. Isabella landed hard, letting out a genuine grunt of pain. Through her hair, she could see Damien holding her bag triumphantly, while his 4 accomplices laughed and jeered. Blood from her split lip dripped onto the floor as she pushed herself up on her elbows and began to count in a voice barely above a whisper. 10, 9, 8. Damien's laughter died in his throat as he unzipped the bag. His hands, so steady when inflicting pain, began to tremble. The FBI badge gleamed like an accusation under the harsh fluorescent lights. Special Agent Isabella Stone. The Glock 19 sat nestled in its holster, but it was the photographs that transformed his arrogance into terror. His father meeting with Russian mob bosses, secret ledgers documenting human cargo, and worse, photographs of 17 missing students, their bodies packed in shipping containers bearing his family's company logo. 7, 6, 5, Isabella's countdown continued, her voice gaining strength. "Kill her! Kill her now!" Damien's scream cracked with panic. But as his accomplices moved forward, Isabella raised her head. The frightened teacher was gone. In her place was something far more dangerous, a predator who had been playing prey. 3, 2, 1. The explosion of splintering wood filled the hallway as tactical teams breached every exit simultaneously. Not local SWAT, these were FBI hostage rescue team operators, the most elite tactical unit in federal law enforcement. Red laser dots painted Damien's chest as operators screamed commands. "On the ground! Hands where we can see them! Do it now!" Isabella rose to her feet with fluid grace, wiping blood from her mouth. Her voice, when she spoke, had transformed completely. Cold, authoritative, carrying the weight of federal power. "Damien Rothschild, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, assault on a federal agent, human trafficking, and participation in a continuing criminal enterprise." She shrugged off her blazer, revealing the tactical vest underneath. Old scars from her SEAL days crisscrossed her arms like a roadmap of survived violence. "Oh, and thank you for the assault. Attacking a federal agent carries a 20-year mandatory minimum. You just made my job significantly easier." Damien's phone buzzed. His father calling. Isabella plucked it from his nerveless fingers and answered on speaker. "Victor, this is Special Agent Stone. Your son just gave us everything we need. By the way, you might want to look out your window." Through the hallway windows, they could see the campus erupting in controlled chaos. Black SUVs poured through the gates, helicopters circled overhead. 200 federal agents were simultaneously executing warrants across the property. In a conference room, board members were being arrested mid-meeting. The Rothschild family compound 20 miles away was being raided by teams who'd been in position for hours. "This is impossible," Damien whispered, his face gray with shock. "My father owns judges, senators, the police." "Your father owns nothing anymore," Isabella interrupted. "Operation Dark Academy has been tracking your network for 3 years. Every bribe, every threat, every murder. We have financial records from 57 countries. We have testimony from 300 survivors. Your empire just collapsed in 30 minutes. Marcus Chen made a desperate break for the window. An operator clotheslined him without breaking stride, sending him crashing to the floor. "Please," Principal Morrison's son James blubbered. "I'm just 18. I didn't know." "Oh, you knew enough to help plan my murder," Isabella said coldly. "Agent Martinez, play the recording from Tuesday's planning session." A tablet appeared playing crystal-clear audio of the 5 boys discussing how to dispose of her body. Their own words condemned them more thoroughly than any prosecutor could. As federal agents cuffed them one by one, reading rights in monotone voices, Damien fell to his knees. "You don't understand," he said desperately. "The people we work with, they don't forgive. They don't forget. You've signed your own death warrant." Isabella crouched beside him, her voice almost gentle. "I've been hunted by Taliban warlords and Mexican cartels. Your father's Russian friends don't scare me. Besides, in about 6 minutes, they'll be too busy saving themselves to worry about revenge." Her phone chimed with updates. The Rothschild mansion raid had uncovered a vault with documentation on every criminal partnership spanning 3 decades. Swiss bank accounts were being frozen. Private jets attempting to flee were being forced to land by military aircraft. At ports across the eastern seaboard, containers were being seized, their human cargo finally freed. As HRT operators dragged the 5 boys away, Damien managed one last look at Isabella. "Who are you, really?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm someone who kept her promise. 3 months ago, I stood at the grave of Anna Chen, one of your victims from 2 years ago. I promised her mother I'd stop you. Consider that promise kept." The hallway emptied except for Isabella and her handler, Special Agent Director Sarah Mitchell, who'd been coordinating the operation from a command vehicle. "Outstanding work," Mitchell said. 847 arrests across 12 countries. Preliminary estimates suggest we've saved over 3,000 trafficking victims. Isabella nodded, suddenly exhausted as adrenaline faded. "What about the mole? Damien mentioned someone inside the bureau feeding them information." "Already identified and arrested. Deputy Director Thompson. Turns out the Rothschilds had been paying for his son's cancer treatments." Mitchell paused. "There's something else. We found documentation about someone called the Circle, references to a larger organization that the Rothschilds answered to." 6 months passed. The trial of the century concluded with Damien Rothschild receiving 35 years in federal prison. His father got life without parole. Blackstone Preparatory was shuttered permanently, its assets liquidated to compensate victims. Isabella received the FBI Medal of Valor in a quiet ceremony, already preparing for her next assignment. But in his federal prison cell, Damien received an unexpected visitor. The guard slipped him a folded paper and disappeared without a word. The message was brief. "The game is far from over. The Circle remembers. The Circle endures." Security footage later showed a man in an expensive suit had entered the facility using credentials that shouldn't have existed. His wrist bore a distinctive tattoo, a serpent wrapped around a globe. By the time investigators arrived, he had vanished like smoke. Isabella, now 3,000 miles away at Hamilton Academy in California, received an encrypted message that made her blood chill. A simple photograph. 14 new missing person reports from prestigious boarding schools across the country. The patterns were identical to Blackstone's early years. She studied her new teaching assignment, noting the familiar signs. Unusual dropout rates among scholarship students. Board members with untraceable wealth. A culture of fear that silenced questions. Her handler's words echoed from their briefing. Blackstone was just one head of the Hydra. Isabella packed her tactical gear into another unremarkable leather bag. Tomorrow she would walk through Hamilton Academy's gates as Miss Sarah Chen, a nervous substitute teacher grateful for the opportunity. She checked her weapon, tested her recording devices, and prepared her cover story one more time. Standing at her apartment window, she watched students streaming into Hamilton's manicured campus. Somewhere among them was another Damien, another predator convinced of their invincibility. They would look at her and see weakness, an easy target, fresh meat for their games. Isabella allowed herself a hunter's smile. The greatest predators, she'd learned, were those who perfected the art of appearing as prey.